010303, Configuring and Updating VMware Tools. Let's close out this VM console and let's go back and check out the status and properties of this virtual machine. First, I will right-click on this bar here, and I will select VMware Tools Status to be displayed when browsing the list of VMs. And I notice here that it says the VMware Tools Status is OK, so that means that it's installed and it's also up to date. Let's go in and edit the settings for this virtual machine. And if we go into the options for the virtual machine, there are VMware Tools options inside here. Now these can only be edited if the virtual machine is powered off, but some of the things you can do here are to control exactly what happens when you use the guest machine power controls for the virtual machine. You can tell what happens when you perform certain virtual machine power tasks, like powering on, resuming, suspending, or shutting down. And then down here in the advanced section, you can check whether or not you want an upgrade to be performed with the VMware tools with each power on. And then finally, you can tell it whether or not you want to synchronize the guest time with the host. Now let's close this out. Let's go over to this Windows 2008 server. Let's edit the settings on this, and I want to enable some of these virtual machine tools options inside the properties for the virtual machine. So I'm going to go into Options, and then into VMware Tools, and you can see, because this virtual machine is powered off, I have full access to these. So I want to go ahead and check for an upgrade to the virtual machine tools when I first power on the virtual machine. That's very important. And also I want to synchronize the guest time with the host. Let's go ahead and say OK there, and then the virtual machine will be modified. Now something else I want to point out is that when the virtual machine tools are not installed, as in the case with this Windows 7 virtual machine over here, notice that it says VMware Tools are not installed. If I try to shut down the guest, first the option is grayed out. Now if I open up the console and try, it will say the guest OS cannot be shut down because the VMware tools are not installed, are not running, or are not responding. In this case, I have to use the power off feature and actually pull the power on that virtual machine. Also, notice that I cannot suspend or restart the VM because that uses the guest functionality from the VMware tools again. So just another reason you need those virtual machine tools installed. You cannot use the shutdown and restart guest options unless those VMware tools are installed. Let's go up to the data center level in our virtual infrastructure, and then let's go to the Virtual Machines tab. Now here in the Virtual Machines tab, I have a lot of different columns, and I'm going to have a video later in the series on sorting, filtering, and searching inside the virtual infrastructure. The tab here shows us all the virtual machines in our virtual data center. If I scroll over to the right here, I can see a lot of different properties about these virtual machines, but one of them is the VMware Tools Status right here. So I can actually sort this column, and I'll click on it. And I'll sort the virtual machines by their status. So I notice here that I have a virtual machine that have the VMware tools not installed. I have a number of virtual machines that have the VMware tools not running. Then I only have one virtual machine where the status says OK for the VMware tools. So I can actually filter by the VMware Tools Status if I go up here to the filter option. I'm going to enable VMware Tools Status as a search choice, and then I'm going to type not installed. And that only shows us the virtual machines that have not installed in one of these different searching parameters up here. So if I scroll over to the right, I can see now I'm only showing virtual machines that do not have the VMware tools installed. At this point, I could export this list of virtual machines that don't have their VMware tools installed if I went up here to File, then to Export, then Export List. I'm going to put it on my desktop, and I'll call it VMs that don't have tools installed. There we go. Then let's minimize everything. Let's go over to our desktop, and here we have this file. I'm going to double-click on this file that I just created. This is actually a very nice report, but it's only of the virtual machines that don't have their VMware tools installed. Notice it says VMware Tools Status right here. Everything is not installed. So that's a quick and easy way to get a list of all the virtual machines that don't have their tools installed. I can also perform the same search, and I can list out virtual machines that have their tools not running. Let's just say not running up here. If I scroll over to the right, I can see only the virtual machines that have their tools not running. So that's a great way to search, sort, and filter through what could be hundreds or even thousands of virtual machines in your virtual infrastructure that have their VMware tools not installed, not running, or even up to date. Now I can select few virtual machines by holding down Control key, then right-click and select Guest, Install Upgrade VMware Tools, as I wanted to upgrade a list of VMs running an out-of-date version of VMware Tools. Be aware, though, that upgrading VMware Tools will automatically reboot these VMs. Another excellent tool that you can use to install and upgrade VMware Tools is called ver2 from robware.net. It's free and it gives you some really nice features. VMware offers a tool to help automate the process of updating virtual machine hardware or VMware Tools called Update Manager. Vcenter Update Manager can detect virtual machines with outdated virtual machine hardware versions and outdated versions of the VMware Tools. Vcenter Update Manager comes with predefined baselines that enable this functionality. In addition, Vcenter Update Manager has the ability to upgrade virtual machine hardware versions and upgrade the VMware tools inside guest operating systems to ensure that everything is kept up to date. This functionality is especially helpful after upgrading your ESX or ESXi hosts to version 4.0 or 4.1 from a previous version, and you have a bunch of VMs that need to be updated also. Few other settings that you might want to know about. If you'd like to make sure users can't use the VMware tools to disconnect devices like CD-ROMs and Ethernet adapters, you can edit the variables found in the VMX file. To do that in vSphere Client, which should be connected either directly to the ESX server or to the vCenter server, make sure the virtual machine on which you wish to change the settings is powered off. Click the virtual machine, then click Edit Settings, followed by Options, and finally General, which is located under Advanced. From here, click Configuration Parameters, which will open a new dialog box containing advanced configuration options. You need to add the following parameters and set the values accordingly. Isolation.device.connectable.disable equals true. Isolation.device.edit.disable equals true. isolation.tools.connectable.disable equals true. You may disable these settings in the future by setting the parameters to false or by just removing them. Another option you may wish to disable is the option of allowing VMware Tools to make overriding modifications to variables that are managed on the ESX server, and thus making sure that users cannot make configuration changes. In the same menu, look for isolation.tools.set GUI options value and set it to false if it's currently set to true. If it is not present, you can add it by clicking the Add Row option. Isolation.tools.set GUI options.enable equals false. Restart the virtual machine so that your changes take effect. So with that, let's tab back to our slides. Some VMware Tools best practices. Use the VMware Tools to complement the Windows time services to synchronize the time on a virtual machine. The Windows Server computer functioning as the PDC should be configured to synchronize time with the same time server used by the ESX or ESXi hosts. Where possible, use the paravirtualized SCSI driver for improved disk performance with lower ESX and ESXi host utilization. Where possible, use the VMXNet3 network driver for improved network performance with lower ESX and ESXi host utilization. Alright, and at this point, I just showed you how to configure and update VMware Tools and what it means as we've reached the end of this video.